You're watching Cox Connections only on Cox 11. This November, Virginians will be voting on a variety of candidates for various offices, including the next President of the United States. It is a privilege to participate in the electoral process, but before you vote for the candidate of your choice, first, we want to make sure that you can cast a ballot. Donna Patterson is the General Registrar from the City of Virginia Beach, and she is here to walk us through the voting process as well as provide us with the resources that may impact our decisions. Thanks for joining me on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
We want to keep people informed of the voting process.
Yeah. Well, first off, who is eligible to vote in this upcoming election?
Well, basically, in order to vote on November 6th, you need to be 18 years or older on or before Election Day. So as long as you're 18 by November 6th, you're eligible to vote.
And so now the issue is registering. So how do you go about registering to vote?
There's many different ways you can register. You can go to the State Board of Elections website, download an application, complete that, and mail it in. You can go to your local registrar's office. In some cities, DMV you can go to DMV as well and register.
And once you've registered, you're registered.
You're registered, but what we always recommend, because a lot of people don't vote every year, even though there's elections every year in Virginia, a lot of people only vote every few years. So one of the things we recommend is going to the State Board of Elections website and verifying your registration status, or calling your local registrar and just making sure your address is up to date just in case you've moved or something like that.
So now, do I need a voter card in order to vote?
Well, it's a good thing you mentioned that. You will need some form of ID in order to vote on Election Day. Voter cards will be mailed to all registered voters by the State Board of Elections sometime in mid to late September. So everyone will have a voter card, but you don't have to have your voter card. There's many acceptable forms of ID. Now, there's a rumor going around that you have to have a photo ID, and
Yes.
Photo ID is not a requirement in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
So just to be clear, there's no photo requirement.
Not in Virginia.
Not in Virginia.
Right. The way the law is now, you need to have an ID on Election Day, your voter card, these are just some of the examples, your driver's license, your social security card will work in most cases. Some of the many government-issued IDs will work, but you can go to the State Board of Elections website and you can get all those acceptable IDs.
Okay.
There.
Now, if I'm a college student, or I've moved, or some issue where I may not be in the current location address,
Sure.
what special consideration do I need to make in order to be ready to vote in November?
For college students, maybe they're just away from home for college, so maybe they're still registered at their parents' address or something like that. But the best thing to do is call your registrar's office or go to the website and verify. But in a case of a college student, I recommend calling, making sure you get the correct information. And a lot of college students may need to vote absentee by mail in order to vote in November.
And what if I'm living overseas?
If you're living overseas, I recommend the same thing. There are absentee ballot applications, but the guidelines for people overseas are slightly different. So call or email your local registrar's office, and they can give you all the details you need to vote. And I can't mention it enough. Now is the best time to do that.
You mentioned absentee ballots. What if you know that you're going to be out of pocket or not in a position to vote on election day? You know that now. Is that justification for getting an absentee ballot, or what's the
Sure.
what's the process behind that?
First of all, there's absentee voting in person or absentee voting by mail. So there's 19 different reasons to vote absentee ballot in Virginia. Anything from illness, your job, away at school. There's, like I said, 19 different reasons. So, but we want people to realize that you don't have to request an absentee ballot by mail. In some cases, people are able to go to the local registrar's office and vote in person before Election Day, and that way they can take care of it that way instead of being mailed a ballot. So
let me go back to the registration
Sure.
process. What's the last day to register for the November election?
October 15th is the last day, and please, we don't want people to wait until October 15th.
Do it now. That's the message that we want to get out. Where do I vote? I mean, there's been a lot of, I guess, changes, or some changes in
Sure.
terms of of where you actually go. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, everyone will have a polling place, and that information is on the voter registration card that you receive in the mail. But also, if you're not sure, redistricting happened last year. Some people, if they haven't voted in a few years, they may not be voting at the same polling place. They may be voting at the same polling place, but I'm not sure.
So same message, don't wait until the last
Right.
minute.
Find out now, go to the website, call your local registrar, and the new voter cards will have that information. But one thing I want to emphasize is if your address is not up to date right now, definitely get it up to date now, because you won't receive the voter card in the mail if you're not at that same address.
Now, clearly everybody will know who's on the top of the ticket, the presidential race,
Right.
but how do I find out who else is running for office? How do I
Sure.
research the issues, check the vote on laws, all those kinds of things? What do I get that kind of information?
Well, none of the ballots are completely finalized right now, but what I recommend is sometime late August, early September, going to the websites for your local registrar or either stopping by their office, and you'll be able to get that information. And by then, I think all the media will have exactly who's on the ballot.
We only have 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
What are the last tip or tips that you could give anyone to make sure that their vote counts on November 6th?
Check your registration status now, show up with your ID on Election Day, and we also want to encourage people to actually volunteer to work at the polls on Election Day.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition, and thank you for all you're doing to make sure that everybody is ready to vote on November 6th. Coming up next, light rail has been a success for transportation in Norfolk since it opened in 2011. The key question now is whether Hampton Roads should explore extending it to Virginia Beach. Find out more when we return.